Hello everyone, I'm Al Grego, and this is the Season 3 finale of the Yes, We Are Open podcast. Lincoln, Ontario. Located in the Niagara region on Lake Ontario, just west of St. Catharines, about 40 minutes from Hamilton. Its population, 25,000. Fun fact, one of the many Lincoln natives to have made a name for himself was William Fairbrother, the inventor of the hockey net in 1880. Before that, they used to use 2 poles or rocks as goals, and officials would rule on whether a puck passed through the goal. Imagine that. They no doubt could have used the Fox puck back then. The net was no doubt a game changer and perhaps a ref saver. Another notable Lincoln native was Catherine K. McKeever, aka the Owl Lady of Canada, who spent over 40 years saving, rehabilitating, and breeding owls in Lincoln from 1965 onward. Among her many awards received is a membership in the Order of Canada. Thanks to its moderate climate with mild winters, the area is known for its orchards, vineyards, wineries, and restaurants that feature local produce and wine. Lincoln itself is known for its fruit crops of cherries, peaches, apples, and pears. But today I'm not visiting an orchard or a vineyard. I'm visiting a very new resident to Lincoln. I'm driving southbound on Bartlett Road, and I turn into a brand new industrial building. It's so new, in fact, that many of the units are still under construction, but not unit number 5. That one is occupied by this week's subject, Bear Cave Silent Booths.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm Al.
Andrea.
Andrea, nice to meet you.
You too.
That's Andrea, one of the owners, greeting me at the door. She ushers me into an open area showcasing one of their silent booths. Being an audiophile, I've been looking forward to this interview. Andrea takes me past the booth and an office through a door into a large shop in the back where the booths are being manufactured. That's where I meet Trevor, the other owner.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Hey, pretty good.
Alan.
Yeah, Trevor. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
So this is the place.
Yeah. This is their new shop. Yeah.
Trevor gives me a tour of the shop, quickly explaining each station. You can tell that the shop is still very new to them as they're trying to figure out the best use of the space.
Where we put everything, all the pieces together.
I meet some of the other employees, including Charlie and Daryl, Trevor's cousin. Both have only been with the business for a few months.
Yeah, we're still kind of moving in and getting things
Yeah,
settled.
it's a pretty new building, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
How long have you been in here?
Since the beginning of July.
After my shop tour, Trevor and I return to the front showroom where, as was my hope, Trevor shows me the silent booth. I'm not too proud to say I geeked out a little. Then I took the opportunity to demonstrate on my audio podcast how well the silent booth works.
So I'm about to step into the booth and close the door. And wow, already you can hear how much sound is being blocked out. And it's comfy in here. There's a little desk with a couple of chairs, one for each participant. Very nice. I'm going to open the door so you can hear the difference. There's actually some construction happening, which you couldn't hear in there, so that's great.
Yeah.
After my successful demonstration, Trevor and I finally settle inside the booth for our interview.
Hi, I'm Trevor Little Eagle McKay, owner of Bear Cave Silent Booths.
My name is Andrea Max. I started the business with Trevor. We don't really have titles, but that's what happened.
Well, Andrea was a teacher several years ago on Matagami First Nation, where I'm from, and we were friends back then, and we played music off and on.
We actually started playing music together on the reserve, and he was like the first friend that I made on the reserve, and we became friends for quite a long time. He actually was the one who made me quit my job teaching on the reserve. He told me, you shouldn't be teaching, you should be singing, you should be playing music, and I quit my job and I traveled all over Canada, all over the States, and I went to California with like $50 in my pocket, all of the things, street performing on Venice Beach and Santa Monica Pier. Yeah,
like about 3 years ago, she said, you know what, hey, I want to record an album. Mm-hmm. And so she said, you went to school for it, so I'm going to come up to your place in Timmins and we're going to record. Mm-hmm. And I had this little tiny 2-bedroom apartment. She showed up at my door like a week later, and, all the bags that she had, because that's all she was doing was traveling around and playing, right? So that's all she literally had was 3 bags of clothes and her guitar.
When I came back from California, I showed up at his doorstep and I just said, I'm not leaving until you record my music.
And so we tore up my living room. We made a recording space.
He actually made the first little sound booth. We tore apart his apartment and I was like, listen, we're doing this. You got to figure it out, So he made like a little 4x6 in the wall. Well, first it was like a teepee in the center of the room, but then it was a 4x6 in the little corner of the apartment.
It didn't work out, but we started a relationship.
It didn't work out for the music, but it worked out for the two.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then it was about a month or so later, a few months later, and she was kind of getting antsy to play music, and well, so was I, and she was like, well, do you want to continue working in the mine here, or do you want to play music the rest of your life? And I said, well, of course, I'd love to play music the rest of my life. She's like, well, quit. I can't just quit. I got a great job. I'm working in a mine here. You're like, you're thinking about all this stuff. And she's like, yeah, you can. You could quit.
Well, in a funny turn of events, you ended up convincing him to quit his job.
Yeah.
To pursue his music career.
Yes. We're very opposite. Like, he's very strategy and, all mental and planning and all of the things. And I'm just like, hey, we're just going to do it.
About 2 weeks later, I quit and we packed up my little Mazda car. I sold everything that I owned. We headed down to Parry Sound. We stayed at my mother's for like a week or two. Then we found a place in Barrie. And then from there, it just started snowballed. And then we started playing. And just as we started playing, we're doing gigs, around Parry Sound and Barrie area. That's when the pandemic hit. It started, I guess, basically January of 2020. Wow. I was asked by the Parry Sound Friendship Center because I'd went to school in 2015 at Recording Arts of Canada in Toronto, and they asked me if I could come in and soundproof one of their rooms. Right. So I went in, I did a bunch of measurements, and eventually they came back and they said, well, the owner of the building doesn't want us drilling into the existing walls. Mm-hmm. So can you build a room within a room? Mm-hmm. And, and they said, we'll have a contractor build it, but can you design it? I said, yeah, sure. So I went home, I designed it, and it was a lot different than what it is. And so I gave it to the contractor, and a week later they called me back along with the contractor, and he just didn't get it. Right. And, he eventually said, you know what? He literally during that phone call said, I don't want to do this. And he told them, I'm just basically out. They said, well, we're sorry about this, Trevor. And they hung up the phone. And I said, okay, well, that's fine. And then they called me right back and they said, well, he doesn't want to do it. Can you do it? Right. And I said, yeah, sure. Could definitely do it. They said, well, we'll pay you half now and half later. Mm-hmm. And they showed me the check and I went, yeah, let's go. Let's do this. As I was searching the materials and, whatnot at a Rona, there was an elderly guy there, that was working, and he's kind of one of those, hey, can I help you, son? And I was like, oh yeah, sure. I was like, this is what I'm doing. I told him what I was doing. And he said, you know what? He's like, use MDF. I was like, MDF? He's like, yeah, that's basically, you're going to get the same density as you would be with these 2x3s and using insulation and all this drywall. He's like, it's basically compressing and condensing that all down to one. So I said, all right, let me take a look at this MDF. We loaded a bunch of sheets on and, we had just enough to build this booth. And so we brought it home and I had no tools.
Did you even have any woodworking experience before this?
Bare minimum. Okay. Bare minimum, I'm telling you.
Cut straight, maybe measure?
Yeah, maybe. That was about it.
Now, when he told you, I'm going to build this, he's already admitted he had no woodworking experience. So what did you think when you heard that he was going to try to build this himself?
I didn't think anything of it when he said, I'm going to build this. I was just like, okay, yeah. I saw you build a head frame, or a headboard for our bed. You got it. And I didn't think anything of it. But there was a few times where, he was in the laundry room and he was putting this thing together and it just... I could hear like bangs and everything falling. And I'm like, oh my God, like I don't want to go anywhere near him right now because he's just yelling and swearing. And I'm like, oh my God.
Wow, he's creating bear caves.
Yeah.
In the laundry room.
Yeah.
This house we were living in was, I guess like it used to be an old school or something like that. And so there was all these little kids' desks down in the basement. Right. So I'd bring those up and I set them out on this deck. And I would do my cuts out there and then bring it back in and kind of fabricate it all together. And yeah, so the first like 4 booths were done that way inside our laundry room. I think it took me about 8.5 weeks or something like that. And we took it up to the Parry Sound Friendship Center. And now I didn't even know if it was going to fully like go together, right? And it fit perfectly.
I couldn't believe it. Like it was just massive. It was just this big entity, you know, like it was way more than I even thought. And he's such a perfectionist.
So you make your first booth, and I saw the booth. I mean, that's why I'm here. I was up at the Parry Sound Friendship Center interviewing your mom for last season of the podcast, and then she showed me the booth, and I was impressed. And when she mentioned that, oh, it's my son who makes them, right away, I'm like, I need to meet Trevor. I need to come and see this. We're sitting in one right now, and it's very cool. Like, I wish I had this in my house.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
So you build your first one, and you get paid for it, and now you're sitting there with a few $1,000s, and you say to Andrea, rather than use this money to pay the bills, can I reinvest this? At that point, did you already have an inkling that this might be a company I want to start?
No, it was just basically extra cash. The next one I made, it took me about 3 weeks, the next one, right? Like I was, you know.
You got better at it.
Yeah. The ridiculous part about it was even the first one, I did it all just basically from my head. Right. I didn't write down any measurements, any numbers. So the second one I did, foolishly, I'm just thinking it's going to be another one-off. So I did no measurements again, did it all from scratch. And I put that on Kijiji once it was done after 3 weeks. And within 3 days, I had a fella come up. He drove all the way up from Toronto and he came and saw it. And he's like, yeah, you know what, I'll take it. So I was like, wow, you know, okay, like, you know, we got a few more dollars. Like, I'll build another one. You know, so I built another one, put it on Kijiji. That one sold in like 1 day. Wow. So I'm like, you know, maybe we should start a company.
And then he did that a couple more times. And then I sat there and I was like, okay, it's selling on Kijiji, but what if I made a website? And what if I did some things and then we could reach all of Canada? Sure. And he was like, oh, okay, yeah. And like the first website that I made, you know, wasn't the best, but I got better at it after a while.
I did it a few more times, like, you know, about 4 times. And finally, the 5th one, that was in September of 2020. And I was like, you know what? I think it's time to start a business out of this. It's kind of funny, like how, you know, how it came about, but I was like literally running on the treadmill, right? And that's how I do my best thinking. Like, you know, I jog and, you know, it gets my mind going, and I'm trying to think of a name, and I'm like, you know, I kind of want it obviously to represent a bit of my, you know, my indigenous roots, sure, you know, and culture. So I'm trying to think animals, you know, and I'm thinking a fox den, and, you know, I'm thinking bats, and, you know, and then I was like, I got it. I know what it is. And I saw the whole symbol and everything. And I yelled to Andrea, and I'm like, Andrea, I got it.
I don't know where that treadmill was, whether it was upstairs or downstairs in that specific house. But so I hear him yelling, and he never calls me by my name. So like I was like, he's saying Andrea and yelling from like the top of his lungs across the house. And I was like, what's wrong? Like, what is something, you know?
Did he fall off?
I don't know what happened. So he comes down and he's like, I got it. And I'm like, okay, you what? Like, tell me, what is happening right now?
And I'm like, I know what we're going to call it. And I see the logo. And she's like, what is it? And I'm like, well, what I'm picturing is what needs a quiet place. I was like, a bear. A bear hibernates during the winter. Where do they hibernate? In a bear cave. It's quiet, you know? And I was like, so I'm like, I could see it. There's the paw, and inside the paw says bear cave, and underneath it, silent booths.
And he described it to me, and then I grabbed some paper and I just drew it out for him. I'm like, does it look like this? And he's like, yeah, that's exactly how it looks. So then I took that drawing and then I put it on the computer, and I just kind of designed it. And that's the logo, right? From his head, right?
And then from there, it just, our first sale from that point, our very first sale, it just couldn't happen to be someone down the street. Oh no, it was a school teacher from Vancouver. Now, we had only sold locally, where they could come pick it up or we could drop it off there. And so we're like, okay, now how do we figure to get
ship it? Yeah.
Yeah, ship it. Yeah, something this size out to Vancouver. We had no clue.
I was like, I don't know how to ship this. He's like, I don't know how to ship this. So we had to figure out how to ship this big, massive thing. And then I was like, you need to get the money before you send this thing.
Right.
And he's like, well, he doesn't want to pay the money before I send it. I'm like, well, you can't just send it. It's like thousands of dollars. Yeah. And so they had this standoff kind of, and then they ended up kind of trusting each other half and half. And it ended up working out. Sure. It was fine. But it was the first kind of big, massive, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah, it's a big leap of faith.
Yeah.
The first 3-4 months, we were just doing it on our own.
Sure.
And then we said, you know what, let's try and expand. And that's when we started going to the banks. Mm-hmm. But we had a business plan that was done. We found someone on Fiverr. They did it for us. And we beat those expectations that he had drawn up for us in the business plan. He said, you probably won't meet these goals for at least 2 to 3 years.
Right.
We did it in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. So we surpassed it just like that. And so we thought, you know what? Yeah, the banks can't deny this at all. Mm-hmm. But, being only a few months old in the business, we went to the banks, they got excited, and one by one, we were like, no, we can't help you. You're too young of a company. Come back in a year.
When you have a track record.
Yeah. So we went back in a year and the numbers were quadrupled what we had before. And they were still, no. Now we're coming up on year 2. We're not even 2 years old yet. And,
do you even need them anymore? I mean, you're
that
moving into your own new facility. You've got a couple of employees, or 3 that I've seen so far.
Yeah.
Do you need the bank?
Well, that's it, right? Not even, not really now, and that's something I'm a little bit proud of.
Has demand kept up? Have you seen kind of a spike, a dip? Has it plateaued? What would you say?
It's only been growing more and more.
The pandemic, a lot of people working from home. A flurry of podcasters, for example, now. I mean, I'm sure this is the kind of thing that a podcaster or a voiceover talent would want in their home. It was probably the perfect time.
All of those industries were moving in this direction anyways, working from home, and especially podcasts, voiceover, musicians, it was already heading in that direction. But the pandemic kind of already, it gave it that kick,
sure.
And we were kind of in the perfect place at the perfect time. So I kind of almost sense that after we started and, the sales, how they were going. And, I really wanted to make it the best quality product that I could. Right. And so, we did our research, of dozens of sound booth companies, and we're right on par, if not better than most of them, I would say, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but the DB readings that we get, they're, it's undeniable.
Up next, it's been a promising start for Bear Cave Silent Booths, but how will their inexperienced business owners cope with material shortages brought on by the pandemic? Or when they stop trusting their own instincts and put their trust in the wrong people? Stay tuned to find out. You're listening to Yes, We Are Open. Trevor and Andrea turned a one-time job into a thriving manufacturing business in less than 2 years. They've surpassed all expectations, and they've done it on their own with no help from the banks. Now they're in a new facility, they've hired staff, and business is booming. But the new business owner couple are about to encounter some adversity that will challenge their inexperience. How will they manage? Let's find out.
If there was a time where something happened or a struggle you guys hit where you came close to shutting you down, what would that be?
I would say probably the shortage of materials. As soon as the pandemic hit, previously, we were given offers by these large warehouse companies, and they said, yeah, don't worry about it. We see where your company's going. We're going to put you on this exclusive list where it doesn't matter if the price of wood goes through the roof to the moon. You're going to stay at X amount of dollars per sheet. And, you know, we have all the supply in the world for you. And the pandemic hit, and that dried up real quick. They said, oh, sorry, we lost that exclusive sheet and you're no longer on it. Yeah. And we had no material. Now, we were selling booths and we had no material. What happened was, like, Andrea started looking around and she's like, well, you know what? We could go down to the States. And I was like, we can't go down to the States. There's a pandemic. She said, no, we can with our business license. And so, yeah, we crossed the border. It's like 20 minutes from here, and that's where we pick up our lumber, our wood right now, and we bring it back. But
even now to the States,
yeah, we still do it. It's the closest place right now, and it's way cheaper than the wood up here. You know, like, we try to keep everything that we buy local. Like, you know, our glass is from a small company. You know, all the fabric, the adhesive that we get put on it, it's a company right around the corner that we use. The artwork that we've used, like for our logo and whatnot out here, that's a local company here. The only thing that we're kind of like outsourcing from the States and whatnot is the wood. But right now we're such a small business, like, you know, it's our best and only option. But yeah, it's been basically the supply chain, and we are kind of even going through it right now.
Right. So how close did you guys get to maybe saying, oh, maybe this is a bad idea after all? Maybe we need to call it quits or quit before, you know, while we're ahead?
Well, obviously there have been ups and downs in sales, right? And there were times when, you know, we were learning the process of sales and ads and, you know, how do you market this?
Like, I did the Google ads, I did the SEO, I did all of that stuff, but because I didn't know what I was doing, like, I don't have any background on it, I was just doing it and it was working. But when something didn't work, I didn't really know what I was doing to make it work or to fix it, right? So there were a few times where I came to him, you know, we made a few sales and I was like, listen, like, I think that we should go with an agency, like a company who actually knows what they're doing with these ads. And he was like, well, if you think so, yeah, let's do it.
And there was times when we put our trust in that and not trusting in ourselves and putting our trust in someone else. And the sales dipped like months.
Our sales completely plummeted and we didn't have any capital. Wow. You know, we didn't know if we were going to make rent. That's how bad it was.
All our savings dried up really quick, and it came to the point where, yeah, we couldn't afford any wood. We were coming close to having to borrow or anything, right, to make rent, and even just, like, you know, simple supplies, you know, food, whatnot, you know, like, I was on the brink of telling Andrea, like, you know what, I'm going to probably have to go back to work. You're probably going to have to go back to teaching.
Because I guess such a niche market, and I really actually did know what I was doing, even though I just didn't know what I was doing. I knew.
You didn't trust yourself.
Yeah. Yes. And he told me that so many times. Like, he said to me, like, you know, you're doing it. Just feel confident with the fact that you're doing it. But I just felt like other people could do it better than me.
We put our thinking caps back on and we put our feet back on the ground. We said, that's it. We're doing this ourselves again. What were we doing before? And we went back to that, and it still took several weeks, but eventually the sales started coming back. And then we started getting our heads above water again, and getting that first fresh breath air, you know, it changed everything again. It was like, okay, we have to trust ourselves, number one, and we can't lose that focus.
For me, that was like the struggle and just taking responsibility of like that. Yeah, that was me, you know, and he would tell me like, no, it's not. Like, if we didn't go with them, we wouldn't actually know that you're doing better and you're doing what.
So it was a learning experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Right now we have Ali. She does the sales. Andrea still does also. We're starting to level out with that, and we're starting to figure out the groove that we need to stay in, and it's only been going up and up and up since then.
Coming up after the break, we'd find out what the future holds for Bear Cave silent booths.
At Moneris, we empower merchants to keep doing business their way, while we handle the payment processing our way. What way would that be? The safe way, the always connected way, the awesome integrated tools to help you make more money way. We know your business never stops, so you deserve products that never stop working. That's why we're committed to providing our merchants with a payment partner that works just as hard as they do to make every sale. Moneris, proud partner of small Canadian business.
Welcome back to Yes, We Are Open. Trevor and Andrea have overcome supply chain issues and their own self-doubt. Things seem to be back on track as they settle into their new home. So what does the future hold for Bear Cave silent booths? Let's find out.
What does the future look like for Bear Cave silent booths?
Well, the future, it looks great. We're obviously still expanding yet. We just expanded into this beautiful new building. And right away, we're already planning for a few years down the road to build our own facility that we could specifically hold every department that we need. And just recently, we started selling into the States. So we're all, I guess you could say, international now.
We want to expand worldwide. We want to be set up in Europe also. We want to have people coming to us from all over Canada and then also have more of a brand and pull in the US.
Well, once we get there, that's going to be amazing, But at the moment right now, we're going to continue expanding. More workers, more sales, and, the sales just keep rising up and up, and we want to upgrade our machinery, such as buying our own CNC machine and also buying our own applicator to put on the adhesive onto our material, so we don't have to outsource that also. We could do that in-house here. Everything to make it more easy and accessible, and quicker. So we would love to do everything in-house, and we're getting there. I see it within the next at least 6 to 12 months. We should be settled in and have everything in-house, and our staff and production up quite a bit.
There's going to be other products as well, like innovations for the booth, and we're going to build slowly and steadily, and I think that's what's coming for us.
We're continually expanding the booths, literally making them bigger, because, we have so many customers coming in for customized sizes and shapes. So we're looking into that, and, something that, the acoustic part of it with the panels that we make. The only reason why we're trying to slow that a bit is so that we can expand and grow on the booths.
Sure. Because
they do take a lot of time to create and make, build in. But we will eventually be boosting that part of it, of the company also, because there are quite a few people in their like small, tiny spaces that they need. And so we're,
still a lot of people recording in their closets.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They got dozens. Like we've been to so many places where, they've said, check out where I used to record. And literally it's like in a little tiny pantry, like, a 2x2. Yeah. And they're like, we can't believe, I got this big booth now and it's going to up my game. And it's like, yeah, for sure,
The perfect marriage between making a living but still being able to do art.
Right now, he's looking to get outside of the shop a little more so that we can record the album. And throughout this whole process, I've written 2 books, and I have an audiobook that's going to be released soon, and all of the things, right? So there is work and play and both together. And if you can find what works for you and how you work and just really know yourself, and I was never a 9-to-5 person. I couldn't keep a job to save my life, but I can come up with solutions and put out fires when they happen. You have to just really know yourself and know what you want to do and where you want to go and what your stepping stones are. We wanted to be musically independent, and we wanted this as our foundation to do it. And it's not even been 2 years. I think motivationally, you don't need the bank loans. You don't need the credit cards. I don't know if he told you, but we're running it off of a $500 credit card. We don't have accounts. We don't have anything. We've just been, doing this with no credit at all. and you don't need it. Like, you just have to be okay with slowly growing and being consistent day to day and just knowing that it'll grow. Like, you put the time and energy behind whatever it is that you're doing, and slowly, day by day, if you do a little bit, it's going to grow no matter what. You're welcome.
Is Bear Cave Sound Booths open?
Yes, we are open.
That's the story of Bear Cave Sound Booths. Opportunity. To be successful in business, you must be able and ready to answer to opportunity. It's what separates entrepreneurs from everyone else. Not only are they ready, they're eager. Now, I'm not sure if Trevor fancied himself an entrepreneur before. He seemed content to work as a miner, but when he said yes to building that first sound booth, despite having next to no tools, knowledge, or skill to get the job done, he showed entrepreneurial spirit. It was a very opportunistic thing to do. I can't imagine a better paired couple than Trevor and Andrea for this journey together. They seem to bring the entrepreneurial spirit out in each other. Case in point, on 2 separate occasions, we had one of them convincing the other to quit their job to follow their passion. Not exactly practical advice, but perhaps the best advice for them to be in position to seize opportunity. Once again this season, we have entrepreneurs starting a business without any experience, and once again, we have a success story. I'm beginning to think that qualification doesn't necessarily guarantee success. Perhaps it's something else. In the case of Bear Cave Sound Booths, it's many things: passion, opportunism, creativity, hard work, and the love and respect the 2 owners have for each other. That's why I believe Bear Cave will undoubtedly succeed in the future. Yes, We Are Open is a Moneris podcast production. I'd like to thank Andrea and Trevor for taking the time to share their story. You can learn more about Bear Cave Sound Booths at bearcavesoundbooths.com. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Bear Cave Sound Booths. If you're interested in Andrea's music or her new book, When a Witch Arrives, I've included links to both in the show notes. For more information about this podcast, visit our site, yesweareopenpodcast.com. If you'd like to support us, rate us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're a Canadian small business owner or know of one with an interesting story of perseverance to tell, I'd love to help tell it. You can contact me at podcast@moneris.com. And that puts a wrap on Season 3. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd like to thank everyone on the Moneris Marcom team for their help and support in putting this season together. It truly takes a village, and there are too many to name, so please check the show notes for their names. I'd like to also thank the amazing merchants who welcomed me to their place of business and allowed me to tell their stories. Green Bouquet Cannabis, Matriarch, Lakeside Dog Biscuits, Style Photos, Down Under Travel, Impact Kitchen, Kids World Pediatric Dentistry, and Bear Cave Sound Booths. Please support them by supporting their business. Production on Season 4 will begin in the new year, so expect a whole new season of small Canadian businesses and their stories by April of 2023. Keep an eye on this feed, and I'll post updates as Season 4 approaches. And finally, I'd like to thank you, the listener, for listening, subscribing, and spreading the word. Thanks to your support, this podcast was actually nominated for 2 Canadian Podcast Awards this year, Outstanding Branded Series and Outstanding Business Series, and I'm thrilled to announce that we actually won the Canadian Podcast Award for Outstanding Business Series. So a huge thank you to all of our listeners. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. On behalf of all of us at Moneris, sincerely thank you for listening to Yes We Are Open podcast. I'm Al Grego. See you in Season 4.